We're back. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to this convo. We have an amazing guest with us right now, as y'all can see with a smile on her face. But before we jump back into our conversations, I just want to shout out yet again our wonderful sponsors for today, Getty Images and Adobe, who are not only sponsoring this event, but are sponsoring things behind the scenes like portfolio reviews from Getty and a whole giveaway from Adobe. So thank you so much to our sponsors. Let's jump right in because just like many of the photographers we already spoken to this weekend, Dee had a full day. She worked today already, so we don't want to take up too much of your time. We want you to go back and relax right after this. So Dee, thank you so much for being with us. How you feeling today?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Shout out again to the sponsors. Shout out to Polly. Shout out to Black women photographers. And shout out to all of you all who are tuning in for this amazing talk that's about to happen. How am I feeling?
There we go. Let's settle in.
That's it.
We here. That's so real, and I really appreciate it. For those who don't know, even though I already see somebody, Denise Tunnel is shouting you out. So excited about this next guest. Dee Dwyer is one of my faves. Yes. I feel like Dee, you're one of all our faves for real. So if you don't know, Dee is an award-winning photographer, curator, and director from Southeast Washington, D.C. And I want to get into that real quick before we get into everything else about I feel like from your work, I see DC, which is your home, is super close to your heart. Can you tell us how DC has affected your artistry, how you mother, just who you are as a person?
Oh Lord, how much time we have? Okay, make it short and sweet. So DC is, I don't know if anyone has ever visited DC, but when you come here to the real DC, Chocolate City, the essence of Chocolate City, because that's the era, that I grew up in. I feel like that's carried throughout my work. Of course, it's the way I think, I'm super pro-Black, super Black. So that's what you want to see in my work. That's how I parent. That's just how I move. Like when I walk in the room, you already know that's the sister right there. And I'm like, yep, I am. How you doing?
There you go.
So yeah, I feel like DC, the culture of it, just it being an authentic, confident, city, just prideful city. That's who I am. And that's, again, rooted in my work.
I swear, it's so evident. It's so beautiful. And I'm going to pull it up now, actually. Let's just get it started early because we got a lot of work to do.
Yes.
So tell us how you got into photojournalism. I've been talking all day. I'm going to be
Yes. You know your thing, girl.
Appreciate you. So tell us just how you got into photojournalism, your journey into it, how you got started, type of thing.
Okay, so how I got into photojournalism, it literally was pushed into my lap by my community. So I grew up just always being inquisitive with the camera. My mom, she's always been the person like that, always took photos at the cookout, doing her thing, taking photos. Half of the time people's heads was, cut off and the family would make fun of her about that, but she just has this passion for documenting our cookouts.
Yeah.
Fast forward to me being a teenager and me going to the go-go. So in DC we have our own music. It's called go-go. You have to look it up. I don't have that much time to explain it. Look it up, or if you're in DC, go to a go-go, holler at me and I got you. But at the go-go back then, when I was a teenager, it was a place. It was very sketchy. It was violent, but it was also a lot of joy and a lot of the neighborhood. We call them gangsters because that's just what it was. They would go, and it was every go-go was this picture booth, and you see the tough guys in the community never smiling, always have to look stern and serious. But as soon as they get in front of this picture booth, they just relax. They're full of joy. They're expressing their joy. They're smiling. And at that moment, I realized the power of the camera. Right. Fast forward to me, going to school to I went to college to become a criminal defense lawyer. You know, growing up where I'm from in Washington, D.C., is Southeast D.C., and where I'm from, it's under, you know, a resource community, aka the Hood, 16th and W Street. It was nicknamed Chopper City. So I grew up around a lot of like violence, a lot of it was just a lot of stuff going on. Whatever comes with the Hood. A group of my friends had got arrested for conspiracy, so I went to school to become a criminal defense lawyer because I felt as though they were getting an unfair trial, and I wanted to, you know, get them out. Went to school, started studying political science, and I was just like, this is so boring. I've always been a very creative person. Love Spike Lee. Love that Spike Lee represents Brooklyn. Whenever you see Spike Lee, to this day, he's been famous, he's been successful for many years, but he's remained his authentic self. And that's the part of Spike Lee, aside from his amazing storytelling techniques, but just him just remaining authentic to himself. That's something that I grasped towards. And when I went to school and I'm taking those boring political science classes, to me, shout out to all the lawyers out there, I was just like, I want to tell their stories in a bigger way, you know. So, you know, I would get these calls from the precinct, from jail, sorry, and I would like have to break down to them, you know, this disappointing news that I'm going to leave. I'm not going to become a lawyer. I'm not going to represent y'all, but I'm in that way. But I'm going to go to film school, and I'm going to create films, and I'm going to put Southeast on the map, and I'm going to make sure that y'all stories are told. And at first, you know, of course, they're like disappointed in a way because I'm their only hope. You know, they have they have court defenders who are not working hard, you know, for their trials or whatever, but I'm like their only hope at this moment. So I told them, I was like, just trust me, I got y'all. Went to film school and had to take a black and white film photography class. And at that moment, my childhood started coming back, on my childhood experiences of, you know, my mom taking photos of, you know, me having a love and respect for the go-go photographers. All of that just like hit me at once. And I was like, I want to be a photographer, but I didn't want to lose any more college credits. So I was just like, I'm just going to stick out my filmmaking degree. Stuck that out, became a mom, became, you know, a wife. I was a wife, basically a housewife, all of my 20s, graduated from college. And towards the end of my 20s, I, you know, decided that my marriage wasn't working because at this point I found my love for photography again. So I was a housewife, really pretty much not doing much, but just taking pictures of the kids, cooking and cleaning and all that. Mm-hmm. And I went to a trip in Brazil, and that's where I discovered, wow, I need to pick the camera back up and be serious about this, right? Did that, came back, started chasing my dreams, and wasn't supported by my husband at the time. Left him, lost everything, literally. Me and the kids lost everything. And this was like in 2017. Yeah, 2017. Lost everything, became a art teacher. And towards the beginning of 2020, I started getting, you know, messages from Instagram, because at this point I'm just like posting stuff online and people are liking it, commenting, but I'm not really understanding that photojournalism is a job. I don't know. I'm just doing things because I love it. And after, 2020, early 2020, before we got the news of a pandemic coming, it was a fellowship for Report for America, and they were looking for a photojournalist from War 8 or War 7 that their beat would be War 7 or War 8. And again, it goes to the saying, people are always watching. I never saw the original call out. People just started tagging me and was like, Dee, this is for you. This is your job. This is for you. At this moment, like I'm wanting to be a full-time photographer, but I don't necessarily know how to do it, and I have to support my kids. Right. So I'm just like, I'm not knowing what to do. The community literally stood up and was like, girl, apply, this is your job. After I got probably about 50 or 60 different tags, I was like, let me just apply. Let me just see. So I applied, and Ben Brody, shout out to Ben from Report for America, dope photographer, mentor, publisher, all of that. He reached out to me because he was doing interviews for that. And he was like, yo, I've been following your work. I'm familiar with your work. And yeah, this is your job. And I was like, okay. So I had to interview with DCS, WAMU, because that's the newsroom that they pair me with. Okay. Interview with the editor over there. And when I interviewed with her, she was just like, I'm already familiar with your work and I'm glad you applied. It's done. Let's go. And I was just like, oh, okay. All right. And at this point, I'm not getting no jobs with anyone. I'm literally just posting on Instagram, and I'm not really working with no publications. I'm just doing me. Yeah. Got the job, and in 2020, I started in June, and that's when I became a photojournalist. And I've just been going ever since.
Man, and like that's when I learned about you actually in 2020. I saw your work. I mean, everybody was sharing it, reposting it. In particular, the your images from protests, which they were just so beautiful, so captivating, so wonderful. And then to watch you grow from then to, I mean, 2023 happened so fast, but that's a full 3 years of like you working, you grinding to had just really getting started. It's like, it feels so magical. It's like you really, like your explanation just now is like you took maybe 10 years to prepare for this moment, but then once you got here, it was just like that so fast.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. I was already ready. Just was waiting on that opportunity for them to open up the door. And I was like, oh, y'all open up the door? All right. Come on.
That part. So I'm wondering then, like, boom, you in the thick of it. And like, especially thinking about 2020 at that time, like everyone is unsure of everything. We have our uprisings. We're angry, we're sad, we're depressed. Like there's so many layers of what folks were going through. How did you manage to mother when you think about it now? How did you manage to mother at that time?
Lord, definitely. So I have a strong village. So a lot of people, they may or may not know. I don't know if y'all be reading my long captions here and there, but y'all should. It's a vibe. But I've spoken about this, but not too much. And this year I said, like, I'm going to speak more about this. So when I divorced my ex-husband, I became a single mom. Little to no help, financial help, all of that. Like, it's just one of those things where it's here and there whenever he feel like it, and it's not that often. So when that happened, the village, my family, was the one that was like, listen, we know that you have dreams and we got you, So trying to mother and then also take advantage of, those open doors that I've been waiting for. Not only that, but to be out there telling me stories that represent me. I feel like I was spiritually led to tell those stories. Like these are people, my people fighting for rights for me, for my kids. Right. So when I explained that to my family, and I was just like, listen, I know it's a pandemic. I know that I could be putting myself at risk, y'all at risk, everybody at risk. But at the end of the day, I have to do this. Like, I won't be happy with my life if I don't do it. My family understood that, very supportive. In my village, they were just like, all right, whenever you need to go out, just drop out the kids, like bring them here. So most of the time, the kids, they were at their grandparents' house with my brother, with their uncle, with their auntie. All of my family, they just, they didn't have anything else to do but be home. So they were just like, you outside, we got you, no problem.
I love it. I want to shout out the chat right now too, because Jill just said the village is everything. Elsie said it literally takes a village to raise these kids. You're doing amazing, Dee. Yes. And it truly does. And like, you're not even the first person, the first mother we spoke to this weekend so far. Like, for instance, we spoke to Ivy Awino yesterday, who was in music and sports. And then we spoke to Jessie J, who's in beauty and commercial photography. And they let us in on like what that looks like. And in particular in this time, like I mean, I guess you could have brought your kids to the protest, but like it wasn't really safe, I'm sure. And like you had your village to take them in. So what does it look like now, maybe, or even before then, to mother in photojournalism specifically? Like, did you ever bring your kids on jobs with you? Do they know exactly what you do? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so sometimes my kids do come to jobs with me. So my daughter, she's 12, she's about to turn 13.
Oh,
Yeah, and my son, he's 8. So they've actually been to Black Lives Matter Plaza to help me take photos of some activists. I've never had them out at a protest, never was ever going to put them in that situation. And, I'm not judging any parents that did do that, because I did see that. But from me, just having insight on, yeah, it's going to go left at any moment, and I know how I am, and I told y'all where I'm from, I would have been like, I don't care about these code of ethics.
coming
But
off.
my child, what's up? I don't play about that with my kids. But yeah, sometimes I do take them out, if it's like portrait work. I'll have them out. My son, we joke about him being our manager. He's always like, how much are you getting paid? What's going on? I let them know like what I'm doing. At this point, it's the family business. At this point, they get it. They're like, oh, you about to go to work? Okay, cool. All right.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, my son just wants to make sure that I'm getting paid. That's it.
I need the toys that I need, the games that I need.
Yeah, he's already calculating his Roblox, how much Roblox dollars he's gonna get.
Yo, they be killing me with that Roblox. I'm like, oh my, what even is this game?
I hate it. I really hate it. That's one of the downsides, though, I would say, of doing what I do, because I have to rely on my family, my village, to hold down the kids. While I'm gone. I've never been that type of parent that allowed the kids to eat candy, or even get addicted to their phones. Like, the only reason why I allow them to have phones is because, like, if I have to leave, I need to make sure we FaceTime and I love you, good night, and all of that. But that's the downside, because when you have the village, everybody is, and my parents are old school, old grandparents. They're like, this baby's going to eat some candy, whatever, and that's one thing. Or give the baby, give the kids the computer or whatever. And I'm just like, gosh, now my kids got a Roblox addiction. Now they eating candy.
It's so much to juggle. Right. And like what I'm hearing you say too is it's like you set your own rules, but then your grandparents or the rest of your village is like, oh, well, your mama not here, so here you go.
Exactly. And I'm just like, I don't want my kids having no cavities. Now I got to take them to the dentist. That's going to fall on me. Like,
Right.
So that's one of the downsides of it, Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. And thinking about that, like, what do you think, or what would you want your kids to absorb as they're watching you? Also, I mean, do you come from a creative family? Are other people in your family like pursuing creative careers or like full-time creatives? And if you're the only one, like, what do you hope they take from it?
Yeah, so my aunt, who helped raise me, she actually passed away in 2020, the top of 2020, before, again, we got the announcement about COVID. And she was basically like a second mom to me. She was a visual artist, but she never she never became a full-time artist. She just did it just to share her artwork with family and friends. But yeah, I can't think of any artist in my family that is practicing their artistry like every day as a full-time job. No. Yeah.
Do they ever talk to you about being a photographer or pursuing creative things? I mean, I know they're still young, but are they?
Yeah, absolutely. So my daughter, she's a visual artist as well. So I tell her all the time, and I tell my son all the time. My son, he's just going to be like a businessman, an entrepreneur. Like, he wants to own. He said he wants to be a YouTuber, and he said that he wants to own his own dealership and a few other businesses. So that's big balls right there.
Yeah. Right. Clearly, he like, what am I?
Yeah, he's about that real paper. My daughter, she wants to be a visual artist, photographer. I feel like she's just gonna be bouncing around, just doing everything. And I tell them all the time, we have these talks, especially when they're like, "Mom, you've been working hard," and I'm like, "I'm working hard so that way, we get to a point where when we walk in the room, y'all don't even have to introduce yourselves. Like everybody knows me and Giannis. Like I'm working hard, so y'all won't have to work as hard." So they get it. They know the drill. They know what's up.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out your daughter too because I saw she took this portrait of you, which is gorgeous. So yeah, you can already see she's about to be like a crazy visual creator already because this is like you look ethereal. This is such a beautiful portrait. So
Yeah,
shout
she
out.
gets it. She has a natural eye, especially with the camera. And I think it's again because she's a visual artist. So with the camera, she already knows how to. Already knows about composition and all of that stuff. So she's pretty. Yeah, she's talented.
That's so amazing. What like strategies did you learn to like figure out how to do this at the same time? Because I mean, just as people, we have so much to keep track of pursuing a creative career. Like, what do you do to keep you on track to make sure your kids is good, to make sure you good?
Girl, I I have my good days and I have my bad days. I would say just again my village, my best friend Bree Monet. Shout out to Bree Monet. She's an amazing cinematographer in LA, chasing her dreams, doing her thing. But being able to talk to her, and Bree doesn't have any kids, but you would think the way she helps me problem solve,
Yeah.
you would think that she has kids. Um, I think a lot of stuff is spiritual too. I feel like I'm a very spiritual person. I feel like the things that our ancestors went through, that a lot of stuff is already inside of us, right? And I'm very in tune with myself. So I know, all right, do you need to sit down, and I'm not afraid to tell like anyone, my editors, anyone like, nah, I can't take that job today. Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just and I would say a lot of the editors, not that it happens that often, um, but editors that I work with, they respect that. They respect that because it's an example of just knowing what you're doing. Um, my family, again, just growing up, seeing how my family move. My family is very raw. They're very raw. They're very real. They don't hold back. So growing up in that environment, I feel like it teaches me, or it's just something that is instilled within me that is just like, all right, you just got to be real with yourself. So that's what it is. And then also, I don't want my babies to go hungry. I can't have my babies go hungry. And so I gotta find some way, to balance it out. It goes back to, the whole cliche thing of Black women. Like we have to be strong because we have to be strong. Like I literally don't have anyone outside of my family to rely on. I can't call their father and be like, hey, I can't depend on him at all. And it's unfortunate. And I have these real conversations with the kids just to get them prepared, because I feel like growing up back in, my parents' era, they didn't keep it as real with our kids. Like they kept it real, but when it came to like the family secrets and all of that,
Yeah.
I feel like it set us back. So I have these conversations, with the kids, and I let them know, look, mommy's not feeling this way. I'm not feeling 100% today. I need to rest. Can y'all give me a break? And they're very understanding. Like they get it. They truly. I am blessed to have the kids that I have, and I'm happy that they're at that age where they're like independent, where I could be like, y'all better go warm up that food in the fridge.
Right. So you can get
So yeah, that helps. No more kids for me.
Nah, that's so real. I appreciate you being vulnerable in this way too, for real.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I don't know, you tell me, do you need a break? You need a vacation yet? You need a retreat? Like, what's going on?
I need that. I need that. Like, I truly need that. If anybody out there would like to sponsor me and give me a retreat to reset, please, dear, for the love of God, for the love of journalism, for the love of storytelling, help me reset, Lord God.
Which I mean, I know we're talking about a vacation, but you have a lot of travel photography. Where's
Yeah.
another place you'd want to go and check out?
I definitely want to go visit the motherland. I want to go to as many countries as I can. If I could go to all the countries, I would love to do that. That's on my bucket list. I have to go there. I like to go to Jamaica. Jamaica is my place where I go and reset. But I always feel like it's not enough time when I go there. So yeah, I need to go back there. My kids are actually half Jamaican, so to just go there with them and just um relax and not do anything, I would love to do that. And again, I want to go to all the countries in Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same. I feel like the list of places I want to go, the list of places I don't want to go is so much easier to say than the list of places I do want to go.
Yes. Yes.
Kind of go basically everywhere.
Yes. Send me just about everywhere. Yes.
Right. How do you get these intimate portraits of people? Like it feels like you must be so good at like breaking the barrier so people can trust you. What is your method? Like especially with the street photography, like how do you get so close and intimate with these people?
It goes to that saying, like people recognize real people. People recognize when a person is genuine. I can't teach nobody how to be genuine. I can't teach nobody how to be real. Like I just grew up in that environment and that's just who I am.
Yeah.
So I feel like I just have this certain essence with me. Like when I come in a room, you already know that she's solid. It's like if Malcolm X walk in the room or Sada walks in the room,
Yeah.
or I don't know, if Kendrick walks in the room, like you just feel that essence of like, oh, that's a real one right there. And I feel like I carry that. So when I'm walking up to people, I'm looking them in the eyes, I'm giving them eye contact. 9 times out of 10, like I'm calm. So I'm not like, I've seen photographers try to walk, especially in certain communities, and their hands are literally shaking. Like they're like, hi. And people people see through that.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you shaking? What's going on with you? Is everything all right? Like, what are your intentions? So
Right.
when I approach people, I'm literally approaching people like I'm the cuz. I'm like, "What's up? How you doing?" I'm not coming up. And I always tell people, I don't even know if I can even be called a full-on photojournalist, like, because I have this talk with my editors all the time, and I'm just not like, I don't carry myself as a photojournalist. I feel like that I contribute to photojournalism, but I feel like I'm just a visual storyteller. Like you could say I'm a documentary photographer, you could say that, but I feel like photojournalists, they carry themselves a certain way and they play by certain rules. And I just do me. I put humanity first. But yeah, how I approach people, I'm not coming up the first. I'm not 9 times out of 10. I'm not even telling you who I'm working for, and within the first couple of minutes of us talking. Like I'm literally just coming up to you and I'm like, we're having a human to human experience. I'm not walking up with my camera up.
Right.
Again, it's like a protest or like an event where it's like I have to just walk with my camera. But even then, I'm not. I don't. I like to have conversations with people first. I like to watch them first and connect with them, and then if I feel like okay, it's a connection there, like I'm reading the vibration, and I'm like, all right, it's cool. All right, we cool. That person is lax. I feel like I have a degree in reading body language. And again, that comes, thank you for my background, like that comes from the hood, growing up in that environment. You read people, you watch people, and I feel like that's what makes, that's having that background and just my life experiences, it helps me to be able to know who to talk to and who not to talk to.
Yeah, and it's so easy. Even like talking to you right now, I can definitely see it. And when we talked earlier, like it felt it. It was easy.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't see it ahead of time, but Denise asked a similar question, like, "What's your approach to shooting people on the street?" specifically the protests and the bikers. So I'm glad you shouted that out, Denise. But I definitely want to get into these bikers because you also said something like bringing the humanity to it.
Yeah.
And what you said, and it reminded me of your bio. So I'm going to just do a little snippet of it. You
Okay.
say, the visual voice for the people, which I love because I think, and no shade to photojournalism, documentary photographers, because it is a skill. And like you said, you contribute to it. But being known as a storyteller, I think the visual voice for the people, I mean, that just hits. Like, it's hard. It's a bar for one. Two, it's like, that is actually what your work looks like. And it does feel like documentary, but like a little bit more because it's so intimate. It like, this shot right here, I pulled it up because it's like you couldn't tell me that you didn't know them. Like, why do they look that comfortable around you? You know what I mean? It's really a skill that you have. So does that create like any sense of pressure or burden when you know how talented you are, like that you got to come like this every single time?
The only pressure that comes with it is like if I'm working with a client, and a client is like, and I've had this experience before with a big publication, well respected one, and they were putting pressure on me they wanted to hurry up and get the story out, right? And I was working with these, group of women. They were just going through some things, and they didn't trust the media that much. They trusted me, but at the end of the day, they know that I'm working with this big publication. And they were just going through a lot of personal things, a lot of ups and downs, to the point where like they didn't necessarily want somebody in their space with the camera all the time. They didn't mind me coming over there, just, relaxing and building with them. But to bring up a camera at every moment, they didn't want that. And I was being pressured to get those moments. And I'm going back and forth, with the editor and stuff. The story ended up taking longer than what they wanted it to. I'm just like, listen, like we have to respect people's space. Like they're going through real life trauma, and I cannot put up a camera every second, every moment. And most stuff I don't even want to photograph on camera. Like the stuff that you want, that's gonna, of course, sell papers or whatever. I don't want to get that, because at the end of the day, I don't feel like these women deserve that. Like it's like war porn. Like I don't think that, they didn't really quite understand that, and that was a problem for me. It was a huge problem for me. So I feel like that's like the only pressure. Like that's why I say when I'm manifesting, like I only want to work with people who I'm in alignment with, because I want people to get it. And you would think after 2020 people get it. Like, God damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm here, because the protesters was like, no, we want Black storytellers. Like, let's be very clear on that. So yeah, that's the pressure that I get. And then sometimes, I've gotten pressure from the bikers, especially like when I worked on the NPR story. So I did a story with NPR. Shout out to NPR for just allowing me to just be me with that story. It was called Bike Life in My Community, I believe. We did it back in 2021. But I received pressure from one of the bikers who, ended up becoming a good friend of mine, because with this community, most of the coverage that they get is always negative. And during this time, the story took a little longer than what we expected it to come out. It took a while, and it wasn't really anyone's fault on that. It was just like how things go.
Yeah.
It kept being a lot of breaking news during that time. It was just a lot. So I would communicate that with the bikers, and it got to a point where one of the ones, the leaders, the one that actually like pulled me in and got validated me and was like, she good.
Yeah.
He and I bumped heads a lot during that story. And I didn't even tell my editor that. Sorry if she sees this. But I mean, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do behind closed doors to, get what you gotta get. Yeah. So we will bump heads sometimes because he's like, yo, when the story come out, I knew you wasn't gonna be able to get the story out. Look, they keep on reporting on us because other publications will report negative things on them. And I was just like, listen, these things take time, and at the end of the day, we want to tell your story. So it was a lot of he trusted me, but then at the same time, when things are always not going in your favor, you kind of get paranoid that oh, nothing's good is going to happen. And I felt like that was where we was bumping heads. And I had to get to a point where I had to, he's from Southeast too. So I was just like, look, what you want to do? I had to pull up. And literally, sometimes you got to do that, especially when you're documenting your people. Sometimes you got to pull up and be like, listen, this is how my industry works, and I need for you to respect that. And, and it works both ways. Sometimes I got to do it with the people that's within my industry, and even with the community, I got to pull up on them. And sometimes they pull up on me. It's just all about holding each other accountable.
No, that's so real, especially how you were talking about for one of the ladies that you mentioned where it's something really personal. I feel like in particular during that super emotionally charged time we were in too, it's more than ever, people were saying no to being you're not going to sell the sad story. Even if the story is sad, I'm going to stick up for myself. I'm going to advocate for myself to say, this is the part of the story, the part of my narrative I'm willing to share. And having people like you to then also advocate for them when they're on the crew is crisis. It's people need that. And I think that ties hand in hand with the biker story that you're also talking about. Because like he mentioned, it's nah, they only want to show us in this way. But it's so many stories happening at one time. And you're just, in that moment, you the mediator. It's I don't control when they release the story, but we shot a good story for you. So just give me some time and get it done.
Yeah, because he was like, just forget about it. Just forget about it. I don't even want it anymore. So we don't even want it. Basically try to do a little silent little protest. So that's when I had to pull up. And I was like, look, bruh, I done spent months on this. This story is coming out. And when it comes out, you're going to be happy. So when it came out, we had a talk. And I was like, it's part of our industry. But it also comes with educating the community of how the industry works. Because a lot of times they don't know that it works like that. Because again, when they do something bad, or if something bad happens, it comes out immediately. But this was the story that we did with NPR. It was a beautiful story. It was a story of understanding so that people can understand their world, right? So I feel like that's what a lot of his frustration, came from. And it was 100% valid. Dag, if we would have been breaking the laws, if we would have been riding, on the lawns of the monument, that story would have came out immediately. But yet, this is a beautiful community story where we're explaining that, our culture is about unity. It's about putting down the guns and picking up the bikes. We're explaining why we do what we do, but yeah, it's going to take long. So that was a lot of the pushback. And yeah, I just had to basically have that conversation bro, I'm not your enemy. And you're not, you're not stopping it. Exactly. But after that, he thanked me for it. And he was just like, I thank you. And it came out beautiful. Everybody that was involved in the story, they were just like, thank you. And from that moment on, it's been on. I call them. They like, all right, what we doing?
Right. I love that. Is the project you're talking about with NPR, was that the same one where you photographed some bikers in DC and LA and in New York?
No. So I just did DC for that story. Yeah. So the LA, New York, all of that has just been my personal documentation. I know Nat Geo has shared it as well. I feel like
that's how I saw some of it. Not to cut you off, but I feel like those shots from you got shared like crazy. I feel like it had an amazing response. Did you know? When you was taking it, was you like, oh yeah, these about to go up?
Not really. I thought like mainly in the bike life community because they are serious about their photos. And one thing about them, they do not play. Like I literally would, whenever I did go out with them, I'm taking a photo and then you got my DMs, my text messages. It's filled with bikers like, yo, can I get this photo? I'm like, bro, I don't even know who you is because at the end of the day, you have on a mask. So let me see, give me a moment. Let me process all of this. Let me go through your page and try to make sure it's you, and then I'll see your photo. But that was it. Like when I do it, when I photograph the bikers, I'm thinking about them and their community, and I'm thinking about making them smile. I wish I can do what they do. Like they're extremely talented, and again, it's not all negative. I know that they're technically breaking the law because it's not legal in those places, but again, it's a deeper meaning to it than what people they just don't understand. Like it's about unity. When you could get bikers from all over the country, even out of the country, coming together in one place, riding together in unity, I think that that's beautiful. And they're from all different places, different neighborhoods. In LA, you got Bloods riding with Crips. Like it's to have that. When it comes to bike life, they're like, look, ain't no banging. We ride. I think that that's beautiful. Like that's the whole movement that people need to, respect. Or when you see people saying, especially in Baltimore, I mean, everywhere, that's their whole motto. I'm sorry if it's people in the background. I had to find a quiet basement after my last job, y'all. Sorry, they about to leave. But yeah, like the heart of their culture is to put down the guns and pick up the bikes. They're literally helping the same police that's chasing them, do their jobs. So it's just having that understanding. And I'm not about to sit right here and sell myself as a bike life advocate. I'm just sharing what I know. And I feel like if people want to know more, then they most definitely should like connect with them, and talk to them. And hopefully, they could work out something.
Right.
But yeah.
So thinking about like, it's very clear that it's a gift for how open you are with people. And I mean, that's why it shines through in your photography the way it does. But do you have any tips or like, what would you advise for other photographers who want to take up documentary, want to take up photojournalism? Like, how do they get to connect with people like this? How can they break down those like walls of connection?
First, you need to ask yourself why you're doing it. So, and I say that because in 2020, when a lot of us Black photographers were getting recognized for the work that we were doing, you had people picking up the camera just for clout. And I tell people all the time, that's not why you should be picking up a camera. Like you really got to be able to go to war for your photos. Seriously. And we've been to war. We go to war for our photos because you're holding somebody's story. You're responsible for telling somebody's story. So you have to know your why first. Don't be doing it for no clouds, for no likes, none of that. Do it because that's what you're being spiritually called to do, right? And you want to create some type of change or awareness, right? Because that's what happens. That's what comes with the responsibility of being a visual storyteller, which is any type of storyteller, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to real life experiences. Once you find out your why, you're like, okay, cool, this is why I'm doing it. I would say just start with your community, start with your family, start documenting them. Look at Angela Davis.
I had to pull up.
Yes. Okay, she's cool. Yes. A real one. I talked to her about the Bike Life project that I'm doing too. And yeah, she with it. She's so well received. But no, like make sure just know what kind of photography you want to do, right? And why you want to do it, and start building with people, start connecting with people. I would not suggest you just go out with your camera and just start sticking your camera in people's faces. Get to learn people, talk to people, build with people, connect with people authentically. Don't just say, I want to connect with so-and-so because I'm trying to just get their story. I mean, you could do that with politicians because it's like, whatever, that's what they're supposed to do. But when it comes to real life people in the community, and not saying that politicians are real life people, but they're public figures.
It changes things.
Yes, it's a different category with them.
Yeah.
But don't just try to befriend people just to get their stories. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then also just know your camera equipment. Know what you're working with. You don't have to know every single thing when you first start, but just try to learn as you go. Make it a thing, and then learn your history. Learn about other photographers. Connect with other photographers. Build a community with other photographers. It should not be a competition. And I want to state that it definitely shouldn't be a competition. Whenever I encounter photographers where I feel like they're competing, I'm like, yeah, you're really not about this life. Yeah. You're not about this life, because we need each other, especially if you're a Black or you're a person of color photographer. We need each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. I want to shout out the chat real quick because we got some love for you here. Joy Malone says, I love your work so much. Marty Williams says, representing Southeast DC.
What's up, Marty?
Davida says, beautiful work. Def just followed on IG. So please do follow Dee, hit her website, wherever, so you can see this beautiful work. Davida also says, shout out to all of the storytellers behind the camera lens. Really quick, Denise asked another question. Was it easy to cover the bikers in Baltimore since you already covered the bikers in DC? How easy or difficult was it to get to know these people?
It wasn't that hard, to be honest. So I pulled up in the bikers DMs, one of the they call him one of like the godfathers of bike life in DC. I sent him, just an email, not an email, sorry, a DM. And, I told him, what my best friend and I were doing. Because at this point, we're creating a film. So let him know pulled up, let him know what we were doing. And we ended up meeting in this like vegan cafe. We ended up meeting and we just, sat down and we just talked. We talked about our project. We talked about our goals. We talked about all of that. And then after that, I think that was the same day. Yeah, he took us around the bikers, like, so where they normally meet up in Baltimore, like this park. And, we was just there talking to people. We did we did a few photos, a few, videos and stuff, but it wasn't that much. After that, we went out on a ride out with them. And then after that, we just started building, from that point on. But yeah, before he took us out, we literally just sat down and just had a conversation. Yeah.
Just that human to human connection, for real.
Mm-hmm. As my best friend and I was eating our vegan little wings and
not the vegan wings.
We had our little vegan wings, and we asked him, "You want something?" He just looking at us like, "Nah." But we had a nice conversation. It was cool.
So, speaking of which, you touched like you're making a film. I want to hear about this. I hear it's your first film and your first time directing.
Yes, so it's my first film. I directed a music video a while back, but it's my first. Yeah, it's my first film that I'm directing. I'm learning as I'm going. I'm just so thankful to have my best friend Bree Monet, cinematographer. She's been doing most of the cinematography for this. Just there with me by my side, because this is what she do. This,
okay.
She does this. So I appreciate her patience with me, and me just trying to figure out the story. So we've been going to multiple cities, just documenting multiple bikers. It's been self-funded. I need help. I didn't tell y'all I'm a single mom with 2 kids now.
Okay.
I'm not by myself no more. But I knew that it was a story there. And I knew that I had to tell it in this way. It's never been told in this way before. I researched up and down. I checked with all the communities, and they was just like, no, it hasn't been told in this way before. So I'm excited, to get it out there. I just finished this program with Firelight. So shout out to Firelight. I'm now part of Firelight, where I learned about, so much as far as like just being a filmmaker. So I'm just learning. I'm going as I'm learning. That's how I learn best. Like, you just have to literally throw me in the ocean and I'll swim. Like, I'm not the type that can sit down and you just give me lessons. I'm gonna go to sleep. You just gotta throw me out there. I'm an Aries, so I'm gonna figure it out.
Fire energy.
Yes, I'm gonna figure it out somehow, some way. So yeah, I'm excited. I've been working on it since 2021, and I'm excited. What I've been learning, because that's one of the pressures actually we spoke on earlier that I've been receiving from the community. Is they're like, when is the film coming out? When is the film coming out? And I just got reassurance from the Firelight program that I did actually last weekend up in Baltimore. And it was just saying, like, listen, just take your time, take your time and make sure that you have a well-structured story. And that's what I'm on now. Just taking my time. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Which, like she said, she needs help. So if y'all are creative collaborators, y'all know some sponsors, definitely hit her up, hit the website, hit the email, so we can bring these stories like this to life. Which actually, LC is in the chat right now and asks, which I feel like is a good question. At any point, have you ever felt unsafe when covering any of these stories? And what measures do you take to make yourself feel safe? That this can be before, during, or after an assignment.
Yes. So in 2020, a lot of times I didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
So I covered the Proud Boys. I covered the everyday Trump people. I've covered the police. I've had to tell all those stories. When it came to the side where it was like about, people were fighting for Black lives, I felt safe there. I'm not going to lie about that. I felt really safe. I felt protected. But when it came to the others, there were moments where I was just like, like I said, when I step in the room, you already know what's up with me. Like, I can't hide who I am, So it was moments where I'm just there, this super Black girl, just in the middle of, all these white people that's just saying the most ridiculous things about us as Black people. So it was times where I'm like, Dad, like it could really go down, and it's times where things have actually gone down. Like, I've had a bruise on my leg. Like, it's been times where things got really real. The police don't want to be, they don't want anything on camera, right? They don't want to show if they make a mistake on camera. So it was times where, I'm like, Dad, things can go wrong. Like, what a lot of people don't know is, during 2020, I actually got put on the FBI list, from that. Thank God, thank God I was able to get off of that. But that was very scary for me. I didn't feel safe. So that, like, even it documented in my community is been a time where I shout out Presto. Presto is a guy from the community, an activist. He's also he helps give back to the community. He does everything. He produces everything. But in my community, when I was 16, I got my brother. He was murdered. My big brother shot and killed, and I didn't go back around my neighborhood for a while, right? So I went there because I just felt bad, because I would go to all these different communities in DC, in Southeast especially, and I would skip over the community that I was, raised up in, because of that, right? That anxiety. And year before last, I was like, let me just go back to my community and let me tell their stories. Went back there and literally almost got shot up. It was just a drive-by. I wasn't targeted or anything like that. It was just a drive-by. The block that we were at, it's a hot block. but I wanted to incorporate those stories. You know, I didn't want to just like skip over them. And again, I say shout out to Presto, because Presto is someone that is there all the time. So he knew, okay, you know what, you've been standing right here for too long, come right here to the side. So he knew just how to maneuver around the community, because I've been so out of touch. And as soon as I did that, like 3 minutes later, somebody just came and just shot up exactly where I was standing at, because that's where a lot of other people were standing at. So yeah, it's a lot of times where I feel unsafe, but it's just one of those things where, like, if I don't do this, I know I'm gonna be a miserable person. Y'all not gonna get this bubbly D, hey, what's up, sis? You're not gonna get that. I'm gonna be so miserable, you know. I'm just not gonna be happy. Yeah.
That's so real. And I'm actually thinking the same thing that Helen or Helene in the chat just said. Like, how do you mentally prepare for that? And then on top of that, like, do you prepare your kids for that? Like, do you talk to them about that side of your job?
Yeah, so I do. Recently, especially, I've been having these talks. Like, I've been telling my kids, you know, I'm really emotional. I've just been telling my kids, and I just had this conversation last night with them. But I tell them, like, if something happened to me, like, y'all just gotta keep going. Y'all just gotta keep going, and don't look back. Like, literally, I've been having these conversations with them a lot lately, you know. So
yeah, that's so real.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, I tell them, you know, we all have that day. And if something happens to me while I'm doing something happy, just gotta keep going, you know. Why y'all get me emotional? Helen, I'm gonna get you. Helen.
Girl, I wish I could hug you right now, because that's the reality of it. It's like, okay, we could pare it down to just being a Black woman photographer, right? Like, that's holding enough in itself. And then being a mother, and then being in the situations that you had to be in during the uprisings, like, that's scary. Being on the FBI list, like, that's a lot to carry. And there was no manual for anybody to tell you how to handle it for real. You know what I mean? And I feel like some of your tears, some of this emotion that I'm feeling from you right now is just honestly like us still feeling that. Like, we haven't completely healed from that. You haven't completely healed from that. And you still have to tell your kids, like, we don't know what's going to happen. So I appreciate you being vulnerable like that with us, for real. And like I said, I wish I could hug you, girl, because like, that's the honesty you just gave us, for real. And everybody in the chat, look, right now, is like, we appreciate you. Big hugs. They sending you so much love right now. Look, Helen, like, sorry.
Helen, we beefing, girl. Gosh, girl.
Oh, but I appreciate you keeping it like so for real with us like that, because what do you say to your kids? You know what I mean? Like, you gotta hold so much. And as a documentarian, as a photojournalist, as a woman, as a Black woman, I thank you so much for spending your time with us today and to be super honest with us in this way. But I don't want to end on this note feeling
no, please no.
No. So I want to know more about like what you have in store for us. I heard you got another project brewing outside of the film. Like, tell us something that we can look forward to as we watch you grow.
Yes. So right now I'm working on my first book. Yes. I have so many photographs that I was just like, I have to do a book. So my first book, as of now, like, I'm very indecisive, and I will change last minute plans. Like, I'm just that type of person when it comes to my artistry, especially. But right now, the first book that I'm working on is dedicated to DC, Chocolate City. That's my first book. I feel like with DC, we don't have like any strong photo books about us, where it's just straight photos. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, like, send me, you know, any books or anything, but I haven't seen any strong photo books about DC, especially about Southeast. So that's my project. That's what I'm working on. So yeah.
I'm excited for it. I can't wait to have a Dee Dwyer collection on my booklet, like on my library. Like, yes.
I can't wait. I
And
can't
you
wait.
still, you have so much love in the chat. Everybody is saying thank you and hugs. I can't wait to support. Like, we are so here for you. So thank you again, Dee, so much for just being here with us, being vulnerable with us, sharing your story, sharing like how amazing you are at being authentic and like getting people to put their walls down. Janisa, I can't wait for the Chocolate City book. We all can't wait. But that is a wrap for day 2 on the BWP Summit.
Yes. Thank y'all.
Y'all, it's giving headliner. We wrapped up with such an amazing photographer. Like, I'm so happy. So shout out to our sponsors again. Y'all already know, because I keep telling y'all, and I'm gonna keep telling y'all, that Getty Images shouted us out with 50 free portfolio reviews, and they keep doing more. So please go to blackwomenphotographers.com, sign up for our newsletter. Make sure you send that email to get in the to get into the collective if you aren't already. And then shout out also to Adobe, who not only is sponsoring this event, but also our free giveaway. So if you took any screenshots, any videos, any pictures during our talk today with Dee, be sure to tag her, tag us, and use the hashtag so we can see that y'all are out here supporting us. Like, we can see it in the chat. We need to see it on Twitter, and we can see it on IG. Okay. All right. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. Bye, y'all.